Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. So before we could go further, any questions from the previous week? If you are having any issues or anything related to the course you like to ask, you can ask now. And once we start, we can continue to go with the topics we are going to cover today. Any questions, guys, from the previous sessions? Okay, great. So predominantly, most probably, we're trying to divide today's session into two components. One thing we are going to talk about infrastructure and penetration testing. What are the job activities? What are the different tasks that is to be carried out in that particular activity out there? As a job role, what are the things that you're supposed to do? And second part, we are also going to talk about from a practical perspective, how do you run scanners, all right? So what is a scanner? How does it work predominantly? And we'll use a normal scanner here, a very important, very critical scanner, especially when it comes to interviews, the Nmap network mapper scanner, the Nmap scanner out there. So how exactly the scanner works and how they are able to determine certain activities that is going to be there. So we will look into that as well in the second part of the session of that. Yeah. Yes. Anyone is asking any question? Right. So let's start. Let's jump. Let me start my PPT. So as technically, this is going to be the second week of presentation. Last week we had some kind of a technical component out there, which we did. So we'll continue with that part. So what is that? So we'll talk about security testing and infrastructure security today, right? And we'll add a little bit of AI to this component as well. As we are moving forward, the more and more AI component is also going to be present in the penetration testing and cybersecurity framework, and how it could impact and what are the things that we need to consider when we're dealing with AI. Also, we'll look into that part as well. All right. So let's go. Let's continue. And this is going to be a very interesting session compared to the previous session because we talk a lot, right? A lot of freshers or a lot of people who want to get into pen testing. There's a lot of misconception out there. What are the skill set that is required? So we'll talk about those things as well, right? So when you have to do, because I do interview a lot of candidates, they do have a lot of pen testing, knowledge, but what is a particular field they are lacking out there, and we'll focus more on that. We'll talk about that as well, right? We'll see into that. So let's continue. All right. So today's session is basically about intro to security testing and infrastructure security. Right. So what is that we have to do from a perimeter perspective? There is an application out there. So how do we go about testing that whether that vulnerability is there in that security or not, and how do we move forward for that part? Right. The first couple of slides are something which is going to be repeated from previous week. So I'm not going to dwell much deeper into them, but you can ask, you can stop the session, you can voice your question if you want something to be repeated out there. We'll be glad to do that part, right? So previously in the first week, we spoke about what is cybersecurity, what is considered as a breach or compromise in security. So either one of these, confidentiality, integrity, or availability, is compromised, then we think the security is going to be compromised from a secure cybersecurity perspective. So technically speaking, confidentiality is basically about viewing someone's data without the permission, right? So you don't have authorization to look into the data. That is what, as simple as something as someone looking in your email or able to read your mail. So or that's taken as a breach of confidentiality. Integrity is someone is able to make modifications to the information out there, right? Whatever, let's say you're storing some information, someone is able to delete, update, or add something to the data out there. So that is called as an integrity. Availability basically deals about, is the service available to your intended user or not? For instance, let's say you are going to use Amazon on a very regular basis. And what if one day someone hacker hacked into the Amazon server? There is no data loss. No one is able to steal anything out there, but they prevented users from opening Amazon, right? You might see there are times when there's a Facebook or Instagram or TikTok is not available, and it's a nationwide something is happened out there. That could be for multiple reasons, right? It could be a technical glitch or it could be a cybersecurity event. If it is a cybersecurity event, it is going to be called as loss of availability, and that is where it comes. So if I'm able to view some information which does not belong to me, or make modification to that data, or making sure that data is not be available or the resource is not available for the right set of people, we can take it as a confidentiality, integrity, availability, loss. Okay, so that is the main three components and the fundamental principles of cybersecurity. Right, anything that is going to happen, it can be brought on down. It can be brought down to any of these components compromised, or all three of them. Right, it is possible, totally possible to do all these three at single event. Right, and we also talk about authentication, authorization, and accounting. Right, authentication basically talks about how you're identifying yourself to this resource, right? It could be, let's say when you log into the Gmail, that is nothing but your authentication. How you're proving your identity? By entering your username and password, right? Authentication usually occurs on three different places, three different types. That is going to be something, it's predominantly, it could be, uh, username and password all the time. That's going to be there, or some passcode is going to be there that you enter and you'll get access to that. Something you have, right? Whenever you go to an office or you go to your office, you have to swipe your ID card. So that is something you're having physically in yourself, and you can use it to authenticate yourself, right? And something you are finally is the biometric, and probably the biometric is picking up more often nowadays because of the mobile devices. You're able to unlock your phone using your face or fingerprint or via voice. All those things could happen out there. That is the main process out there. The next is authorization. Authorization is the process that determines you may be authenticated. You got inside Gmail by entering your username and password. But what are the files that you can access? For instance, let's say when you have a Google Drive, you can tell in your Google Drive who can view what data that can be allocated out there. And that is what we're doing there. The authorizing, when you're adding, you're creating a folder with putting some file out there and you're allowing some user to access it. That is meaning that you're authorizing a particular user to access into that, right? So I can tell someone who is logged into Gmail again, I can access it. So we can tell what is accessible and what resource can be given to a person. That comes under authorization. The final part is probably something, one of the issues we face right now, and one of the WOVAS top 10 is lack of logging. What do you mean by lack of logging? Basically talks about, right? One second. Lack of logging, basically what does log do? It is going to account for someone's action out there, right? Someone is taking some kind of an action in the organization, they should be held accountable for, right? So one of the examples, uh, how it can be very useful is that a long time back I was working for a company. uh, in that company, all of a sudden they realized about 10,000 customers data was lost on a one particular day, and they asked the team which was dealing with that, and everyone told they are not aware of it, they did not do anything of that, right? Luckily there was a backup option, they were able to immediately recover that. But at the same time, there was also log telling that a particular user ID was used to delete all those 10,000 customers, right? 10,000 customers, this is about, I'm talking about almost 10 years or 12 years back, right? This was a SAP application. So it had that flexibility to know, right? And they got to know which user was using at what time, and they were able to pinpoint that user. And when they asked him, so he told that by mistake or negligence he deleted it, but he didn't want to disclose it because there could be a disciplinary action, so he tried to hide it, right? Even though that was done, it was easily able to trace it back to him, and that is accountability, right? We should be able to do that part. uh, Not doing accountability also has a lot of impact, right? There was a company which was hacked, they got to know about they were hacked, and when they got to know that they have been hacked 4 years back, so the hacker was inside the system looking at all the data that is going through the server and through the network, and they were not able to know because they were not regularly auditing the logs of them. And once they did that, they got to know and they were able to protect their assets. They were losing a lot of business because of him, because he was taking a lot of IP and confidential information and selling it to his competitors, right? So that was one thing. So why accountability plays an important role. So this is basically just a feedback, it's just a continuation to what we have been doing the last 2 weeks out there. So the point comes is the main thing is security testing, right? A lot of the time, right, that my main job that comes up on a daily basis that I work on is a VAPT, right? I manage a team, I lead the team, I do a lot of activities, all right? So VAPT, what does VAPT mean, right? It is, security testing type of software testing focused on identifying, addressing security vulnerabilities in a software application. Yeah, can be mainly divided into two parts. This is one of the reasons why a lot of people struggle getting into pen testing jobs. The main reason is the training what you are getting online that is available out there and what is the job that is present in real time out there, right? Any certification you go today and you go through that pen testing, it is a practical approach, right? So a lot of things will be there, right? But most of them are going to be focused on infrastructure pen testing, right? Infrastructure pen testing does not occur in practice lot, right? Number of times a client comes up to me and asks me to pen test a network infrastructure is very limited. Let's say probably when if I'm going on an average out of I've done more than 350 engagements till now. Out of them, I think it's very limited, right? Probably I've done about 10 to 15 projects on infrastructure pen testing. The main reason being is the vulnerability analysis tools for the infrastructure is excellent, right? You don't have to go through it. And at the same time, infrastructure pen testing can actually cause some issues at the uh, server level. It could actually sometimes compromise the server. It could crash the server, which as we have seen in our case many times when we do, uh, especially when we do DOS simulation, DOS attack simulation, that is going to be there, right? So that is one thing. So most of the time, 95% of the pen testing job that occurs on a daily basis is going to be in web application security, is going to be in mobile application security, is going to be in API security, right? All of them have 70 to 80% similarity because end of the day, all three of them are connecting to a server. Okay, so that is what is going to be there. There are some additional testing. Mobile is almost similar to web. Only thing is that there are few additional things that will be relevant to the mobile platform, like an iOS platform or an Android platform. And API, probably the testing phase is a bit different because there is no user interface. The manipulation is going to be with variation of that, right? That's what is going to be there. So 95% of the pen testing work as a pen tester is going to be dealing with web application, right? So that is what the main concern is going to be. And the problem is we see what I've seen is that a lot of students come or candidates who come for pen testing job roles, they get better with infrastructure security. That is needed. But if you want to start off, which is a priority to be given, please start off with web application security. Like, that will get you and very, very, very fast. There's a severe shortage of good quality pen testers in web application space, right? And just to fill two roles, there are times where I've done more than 600 interviews and still not able to finalize the candidate because after finalizing the candidate and offering them a package, there'll be someone else who's going to beat that package, right? So it's very difficult to hold on to good quality pen testers, and especially in US, right? And this is one of those roles where your education background and years of experience has little weightage compared to the knowledge you're having. Okay, so this is a very good place to start. So let's talk about vulnerability assessment, right? What is mean by vulnerability assessment? So vulnerability assessment is the testing process used to identify and assign severity level to any security defects in possible in a given time frame. The process may involve automated and manual techniques with varying degree of rigor and emphasis on comprehensive coverages. All right. Vulnerabilities are only identified but not exploited, usually done with help of some automated tool. Right. So usually the tools that we more commonly use here is Nessus and Quali. Some cases we do use Nmap, but in a very limited way. Akinetic and Zap are two web application scanners They only specialize on the web application, meaning they work on layer 7 that look at the HTTP traffic. They're not looking anything else, right? So that is the process that goes out here. Let's focus on network scanning tools out here, all right? So what is their main agenda, right? Predominantly network scanning tools, depending on the organizations, number of we usually get IP addresses out here, right? These are the devices and the IP addresses of the servers. We want you to go them and scan them and check out, right? So we want to look at their design flaws. Is there anything? Then we want to document the vulnerabilities, and so that it can be reproduced by the operations team or the development team or the and create guidance as it, or then we are going to help the developers on the team to how do you fix this vulnerability, right? Here it is a very straightforward approach and probably one of those easier ones out there, right? It is not as complicated as pen testing. So I think in one of the organization I was working, there was one guy whose job is very simple. He'll come in the morning, he'll take his coffee, then he'll have a list of IP addresses to be scanned on that particular day. He will open the scanner, take that IP address, put them in, then do the scan settings. Predominantly, it's going to be PCI DSS scan settings. And there are few that is going to remain constant on an everyday basis. Once they've got that standard, the settings ready, right? They're going to fix on that particular part and run the scan. So this sends a large number of packets to the target. Let's see, even if it's an IP address, it's thousands and thousands of packets are sent to that to collect information about what's happening on the server. And once they collect that information, based on the packet manipulation, what the response is coming, these tools like Nessus and Quali are very good at identifying vulnerabilities at the design level, at the configuration level, and things like that. Once they identify that, that will be created into a report, right? The results are going to be uploaded, and the person actual job starts at second part of the day, right? The scan takes some time to finish, right? So second part of the day is very has to work a lot because he's taking all the scan results, he's checking for false positives, then he's going to create a report out of it, then he's going to send the reports to all the stakeholders, right? To and fix them. And also in the morning he's going to check on the previous reports, where are there things still pending and things into that part. So this is a very critical part, right? So for us, when you're doing any pen testing engagement, this is the first thing that we go to, right? We run the scan, we get to know how is the thing. If there are no vulnerabilities, very rarely that occurs, right? It means the team has been running their own scanning and they have been fixing on that. So they are depending on us as a mandatory requirement for some compliance, right? Their compliance will tell you you have to get your network scan from an external entity. That is very, very important. So that's why that is going to be there. So VA scans are very important. When we come to the practical part today, we'll look at Nmap tool and how do we go about the VA scans of that, right? That we'll check it out. Right. So what are the different stages of a VA scan? As I told, the first part is network discovery. When you're working in an organization, the network discovery is not going to be there always because they are going to give exactly the which IP addresses are supposed to be scanned out there. But there will be certain red team engagements where they'll just give you access to the network and they will not give the what are the IP address assigned in that. So you have to scan one by one and check out what's happening out there. This will add time to the scan, but it is very good, right? And then we are going to identify the devices that are up, which are servers and things. Then we'll start looking at the ports and service information. So so this is going to collect what is the IP address. They can usually, depending on the service that may be running or the ports that are open, I can tell whether it is a desktop or a server, right? Something like in port 80 or 443, maybe that is going to be running a server in that part. And once you get this information, the service identity, what service it may be, we look for any vulnerabilities is present or not, right? That is what is there, the main reasoning for that. And once we have identified that vulnerability is present out there, right? When you run the scan and things, we'll enable a resolution procedure, right? We'll recommend remediation. A report is created for the vulnerability and ask the developers to work on it. And then we are going to do the integration, making changes, we're fixing the bugs, fixing the vulnerabilities, integrating the newer code or newer settings into the application, right? So that is what happens. And this is a never ending process, right? Predominantly in previous situations, uh, the scans were mandatory once in quarter, that is once in 3 months for a financial or any organization that collects sensitive information. That is predominantly your KYC, know your customer informations can be very important out here, right? So then you got to keep on doing once in every month. Previously it was 3 months. Nowadays we see that it happens once in every month actually. In some cases even probably once in couple of weeks as every fortnight there's going to be scans out there. Okay, so that is the VA stage, and predominantly this is how you when you run the scan, this is how the scan report will look like, right? So so you can see here they have scanned more than 54 hosts, that is 54 devices. They have identified more than 1564 vulnerabilities. So they have more than 395 remediations. So how do you fix it, right? Out of this 1564, 75 are critical vulnerabilities that need to be updated, fixed immediately, almost instantaneously. Now, in some organization, they'll just have 48 hours to fix it, right? Those are some issues out there. Whereas the high and medium will be of importance. Medium might get couple of weeks or up to 30 days to fix, sorry, high, right? And the medium can get 1 or 2 months of that. The low on info is something that does not, low can be fixed. They do get more than 2 or 3 months to fix it sometimes. Whereas info, it is not mandatory. It is just that some very basic security principles are not followed. They're thinking you should do that. And that is what the reporting is going to, right? We also are going to help organization to understand the priority of the report, telling which are the vulnerabilities they should focus on, right? So even though you may see 75 critical and 849 high, which need to be addressed, out of 75, which are the vulnerabilities, critical vulnerabilities that need to be done first, that should be focused immediately. That is what is important, right? The more scans you run, you'll understand the process for that part. Okay. So this is basically you're running the scan, right? That is what vulnerability is about. But you're not doing is actually exploiting it. You're asking a lot of questions to the target, and based on the answers provided by the target, you're going to think whether a vulnerability is present or not. You're not hacking in here. You're not giving out any payloads or not any trying to crash the system. Nothing like that is happening out here. Okay. So that is what is. But in pen testing is this is what is not. Here we are running an authorized simulated attack performed on the computer to evaluate the security. Meaning we are going to simulate if there is an hacker who is going to compromise the company's network, how would he approach? That is what we are going to look into that and see. Penetration testers use same tool technique and processes as attackers to find and demonstrate the business impact of weakness in the system. So all the tools a malicious hacker will do, pen testers will also use the same tools and try to compromise the system, right? So that is what is happening out here. Okay. So give me just a second. Let me have some water. So any questions till now? Any questions from a vulnerability analysis perspective? Sorry. Yeah, please go ahead. Yes, Alice, please go ahead. I think no question. Fine. So in types of testing as a pen tester, there are predominantly three types. One is black box testing, where here there is no information given at all by the client for you to test. They only probably will give is they're going to give the contract to do the pen testing, and they'll just give the domain name or the IP address they want us to do. There is no absolute no information given. We have no information what is the technology stack, is there any users, where exactly it is located, what operating system may be running. No information is given. Everything has to be done by us. And this is what an actual simulation will look, right? For instance, an hacker who's trying to compromise your network will not have any of this information. That is what they are going to simulate out here. A white box testing is something usually given to an internal pen tester, because internal in white box testing, everything is given, access is given to the user out here. The pen tester, whoever is doing out there, he will have access to the code, he'll have access to the infrastructure, he'll have access to the hosting server. All those things will be there. There's nothing that he cannot access. Everything is going to be there. So using all the things, he has to find the vulnerabilities and give remediations for that part. Whereas gray box testing is where I come into play, or pen testers usually auditing, people who audit are coming into play. The main reason is that there's not 100% every information is given to that. A lot of information is given. Unlike black box testing, no information is given, right? But we get a lot of information in this gray box testing, but not complete, right? I do get about users that are there, username and password for the user, what infrastructure they're running, what technology stack they're running, right? I may not get, something that could be withheld is the uh, source code of the application, right? Some of the settings it will be there that will be withheld from me. So those are the things, few things. So I don't get a complete information, right? I do get a walkthrough of the application by the developer, and I can try to do a lot of things. Not that, right? So that is the main difference. White box is everything, all information. Black box is no information. Gray box is most of the information is going to be given, right? So that is how it is going to be. So, so different phases in hacking is predominantly five phases. Reconnaissance phase, where you're collecting information about the target. As an auditor, this phase is not going to be done by us, mainly because whatever the information that we usually connect in the reconnaissance phase is directly given by the company to us while before we could start the engagement, right? So second thing is scanning. We like to look at scanning, we like to look at any vulnerabilities that could be exploited, identify those things, and then go from there, right? So that is what scanning is. Then once we identify vulnerabilities in a system, we will use it to gain access to the vulnerability, system out there using those vulnerabilities. That is one activity. And once we have gained access, we want to continue to access out there, right? So we'll see how can we maintain access for that. So we'll create a backdoor in an application and try to come into place. In real-time pen testing jobs, we don't do maintaining access. Gaining access, yes, certain times, but not maintaining access. Clearing tracks is also basically about there will be a lot of footprints or breadcrumbs available out there when you do a pen test or an hacking activity, right? So we like to clear out those things so that the people who are defending, they should not be able to analyze the network at a later stage and look at, okay, this is how the hacker came into our network. The main reason is that I should be able to do the continue to do the same attack vector again and again. So that is the reason why clearing tracks are more important out here. In a normal pen testing engagement or VAPT, you don't do reconnaissance, you don't do maintaining access, you don't do clearing tracks, right? So predominantly what is going to happen is that they are never, it's not a good idea, even if they give you the production environment to test, you should avoid testing a production environment, right? You should always ask for a staging environment, because you'll have staging environment will only have dummy data, nothing specific that can be, and they're also designed to be, break, because a lot of testing happens on that, and it will give you that flexibility. But when you go with the production, you're dealing with real data, you don't want to practice on that. You don't want to do pen testing on that, especially especially when it comes to pushing a lot of payloads into the servers to crack it. This will have a huge impact at the later stage, mainly because we'll not be able to clear all that unwanted data out of it once the testing is over. Right? It is very difficult out there. So that's one thing. The different phases of it. Right. So now this is very important concept out here, right? Either from an defending team perspective or from an attacking team perspective, right? Where does the attack take place? Right? Where can we attack the application to do that part, right? There are three places the vulnerabilities will occur. One is the vendor software. Second one is the configuration files, that is predominantly a server, operating system like Apache, MySQL softwares like that. Those are the locations where it could happen in the vendor right? Configuration files, this software that I'm using in my system are not properly configured to provide security, right? So for instance, you may be using a root enable access at SSH level. That is a good, no, but that's no bad idea. It is also possible that the communication HTTP Apache is not configured to make sure the communication happens only via HTTP. In some cases, they can be misconfigured to allow the communication over HTTP also, right? And finally is the most common thing, the web application code. This is where developers introduce vulnerability using their poor coding practices, right? So for us as a pen tester, as a security team, you will vendor software vulnerability is something you don't have much control over. You can't do anything. There are two things you can do. One is to update the server software and move on, or stop using that vulnerable software altogether, right? Whereas a configuration settings and web application code, that is what is there in developer's hand. He can make changes, look at the vulnerability, make changes to the settings or code to make them secure, right? So that is what I do in a predominant environment in my day-to-day job out there, right? So any questions related to this? What is the pen testing role? What are the activities that you're doing out there? So want to ask, what is the requirement for vulnerability analyst like certification and qualification areas? Uh, I think probably for security vulnerability analysis, someone with a security plus certification will do good. Understanding how to use scanners like Nmap, Nessus, and Quali would be good. Right, Quali is something which is more commonly used. There are some, they have their own certifications there. You can use that for that part. That will be good. I think Nmap is a good place to start. That we do today after the session. What we do here, we'll take a break and then we'll start focusing on that. That could be a good place to go. Right. So predominantly, along with vulnerability, if you're able to do some uh, other pen testing activities, it will have a bit more have a higher weightage. Right. And VA is usually an entry level job, right? VA is usually an entry level job. It is not something done by senior or senior team members out there. Usually, if it is done, it is not. It is just a one or two components in their day to day. It is. There is no. Usually, there is no, and because there are cases, large banking operations which operate in multiple countries, right? And international banks out there, they may be having desktop servers all throughout the world, right? Especially I've seen in Middle Eastern banks and everything, they will have a separate VA department in those cases. So they will have a team just for running, because they'll be having thousands and thousands of systems all over the world, right? And they need to be scanned because that's a compliance requirement out there. You have to scan those devices once in a month or once in a quarter, right? So it is going to take a lot of time for that. They need a team. There will be a manager who's going to take care of that, but that is very rare, right? So that is not many organizations. Predominantly, this could be done as a PT role also, right? So look out for job roles like vulnerability analyst. So this can be done on there, right? So banks are predominantly where they'll focus for this. Banks, telecom, insurance companies, uh, those are the predominant locations where you can see. So anything else? Any other questions? This is pen testing is a very important skill set is what I feel, right? Even if you're going, let's say I'm not, if you may be thinking, I don't want to get into offensive security. I want to go into defensive security, like DevOps, or it could be cloud security or anything. But understanding pen testing is very important because you will know what you're defending against, what is your adversary is about, how his approach is going to do it. Without that, let's say you're writing a rule for certain attack vectors to prevent, you're blindly writing that rule. You don't know what exactly is happening out there. And this affects in the long run, especially when you go to a senior level, because you're supposed to give this justification for why you're doing certain activity out there. And your lack of understanding of the attack for which you are providing security is going to be a major problem, right? So it is important to understand how does an attack take place, how is the attack process to go, right? So that is one of the reasons we go, in depth with web application security in our DevSecOps course. We do look at how to hack a web application, not hack, how to pen test it would be a right approach. We take already existing, web application which is vulnerable in a controlled environment. We are not doing it on the open on any device we want. No, there is a virtual environment where we practice all these things. Okay. So any other questions, guys? Before we move on to AI in cybersecurity. Okay. One second. Okay. So let's move on to AI in cybersecurity. AI in cybersecurity has been there for some time. Yeah. It is not something which is, it's not discussed much in real time, right? Because of the sensitivity of the nature. A lot of big organizations are working on it. Uh, no more so, nation states are more concerned about AI in cybersecurity, right? Then you may be thinking they may be focusing more on how do you prevent attacks from AI more than that, they're looking at how they can leverage AI to attack, right? So before we go into AI, let's understand the difference between automation and what is an AI. Because this, we see a lot of places they'll talk about AI, and in the end, the amount of AI they're using is very limited. Or they may be using an automation out there, but in fact, they're going to tell they're going to use AI. Okay. So let's say automation describes the wide range of technologies that reduce human intervention in process, mainly by predetermined decision criteria, sub-process relationship related actions, as well as embodying those predetermination in machines, right? We are taking our activity and pushing it to machines out there. That is what predominantly what we can tell. And AI is going to be there, right? Artificial intelligence is the ability of a computer or computer controlled robot to perform tasks that are commonly associated with intellectual process characteristics of an human, right? So what is that makes human better, right? What you mean by an intelligence, right? The intelligence is the ability to take a choice, take a decision, take a point of view, right? That is what makes intelligence out there, right? Yeah, that so intelligence here is different, right? Uh, a child is also intelligent, right? And the maths, Einstein, as we can see here, Einstein is also has a lot of intelligence, whereas in a chimp that is able to do basic, maths is also intelligence. So what is the level of intelligence we are looking at, right? How good a computer going to be in terms of intelligence that's going to be there, right? So we usually look into that part more so, right? So for me, a perfect example for automation versus AI is your normal washing machine, right? Because AI automation washing machine is a prime example where you automated the task of washing your clothes. You're going to tumble it. That is what add soap and everything is going to be done. And what you would do in your hands is being given to a machine out there, right? That is going to be doing every day. It's because the cycle is same. Every day you're going to wash your clothes in a particular order and going to do the same activities again and again and again and again, right? That is what it's going to be. And that I've taken that something which is repetitive task and given it to a machine so that I can save my time and work on something more important, right? Same thing. But why is this automation as it is called as an automation? The reason is here, right? I'm not talking about the newer generation washing machines, right? I'm talking about, let's say, a couple of years back, right? Your front loading washing machine that is going to come. Every decision has to be made earlier before the activity starts, right? Once after putting the clothes into the washer, you're going to decide the amount of detergent that is going to go. You're going to decide amount of fabric softener is going to go there. What is going to be the cycle? Is it going to be for white clothes or going to be for cotton? It's going to be delicate or it's going to be quick wash. All those decisions has to be made by you well in advance before you could press the start button, right? So that is automation. The decision is to be made by the user in a well in advance, and that is what we see in CI/CD pipeline also. It is going to follow the step. If something goes wrong, it is going to stop and ask for a human intervention out there. Think about in a similar way, if an artificial intelligence is there, and nowadays you're getting there, you see a lot of Samsung washing machines I've seen coming up with an AI. You don't see the full-fledged AI, but all decisions are made by machine based on cloths that are put inside the washing machine, right? You see nowadays there are washing machine which will we don't have to put the detergent every day. You have to fill it up and they will decide what amount of detergent needs to go, right? They will have features. It will look at the weight that is available, number of clothes that are there. Then based on that, it is going to fill the right amount of water that is required. All the decision is going to be made by them, right? All you have to do is put the cloth, switch it on, and make sure the detergent is full, and it will do the rest for you, right? So that is what, because here the decision is not made by you. The only decision you're making here is putting the clothes in the washer and switching it on. Rest everything is done. So that is what makes an artificial intelligence, right? So coming back, right? So how do you think, right? How do you think it is going to go with in your real-time scenario, right? In the AI is also right. Whenever
Uh,
when you yeah,
Good good evening, Mr. Karthik. I
yes,
think your video or screen sharing is off.
no, it's on.
Okay, maybe some of my
Let me
system
maybe
problem.
let me switch it off and switch it on again.
No, it's working fine. We can see the screen.
Okay, how about now, Mira? Is it fine? So we might be seeing a lot of, uh, AI-based products nowadays. We're looking at AI for creating slides, Chat GPT, which is going to be very useful. Predominantly, if you compare a Google search to a Chat GPT, the only difference you can see is that ChatGPT is taking a decision what has to be presented to you in a much more accurate way, much more detailed way, right? You will get in Google, it will present you with many choices, and you have to decide which of the links that you're going to go, and then you're going to do that process. And then you can look at that information that's there. But ChatGPT is not doing that, right? It is able to do that decision making for you and be able to present the information in a more concise way, right? But you always have to take the artificial intelligence data that is given with a pinch of salt, right? It always have to be verified by you and well in advance for that. So technically speaking, it is not going to replace you as what a lot of industry people will tell. It will make you, it will enable you to do better, right? Artificial is something which is going to enable you to do better. One of the major problems we see in organizations is that the teams are too large and it is quite difficult to communicate and get things done in time. Artificial intelligence is going to bring that time significantly lower out there, right? I've seen in teams which are using artificial intelligence for coding, instead of them having 6 people team and able to work on weeks and weeks of the project, they're able to, with the 2 or 3 people, they're able to get the project done within a week or 10 days time, right? So they're cutting down the cost significantly. I think it is what people think it is going to take away jobs. Same talk was there when automation was on full swing. People thought it's going to, affect job market. It did not, right? People move on, understand how to use AI in their day-to-day job and do better. And it is going to go even rapidly allow people to use IT services to do their task much better at a cheaper price, is what I feel. And same thing is going to happen for artificial in cybersecurity, right? It is still an early phase uh, that is going to be there. But offensive security, there are, I mean, DARPA is one of the organizations in US that works on a lot of defense related projects, and they also work on using AI for cybersecurity, right? They have designed tools that are used at an, military level where it can automatically attack, and if it's on the defensive level, it can detect an attack and patch itself on the fly, right? That is there. Uh, in real time, I've seen recently one of the AI-based was for phishing attack, right? So, but there it was phishing AI was not used for actually for the attack, because I was quite interested to understand what's happening, how they're using AI to do the attack. In fact, they're not using it as a mechanism for attack. But one of the reasons why phishing attack is not successful, let's say you're getting a phishing email and you're not successful, why people know that it is a phishing mail is the subject of the email is it's not properly written, right? And this particular tool focuses using AI to generate the mail for the phishing mail and the body content message part for that, right? So there's still a lot is going on, but it's important for us to move further, right? To understand, be ready when it comes out there. And as I'll talk more, it is more so going to happen at the vulnerability analysis level, right? But what are the reasons why there is a difficulty in adapting AI in offensive security, meaning that from an pen testing perspective, why it is difficult? Main reason is expanding attack surfaces, because this is not one component that you have to attack. You have to attack servers, you have to attack firewalls, you have to attack web application, mobile applications, a lot of things are there. So coming up with a AI based model for everything at once is going to be difficult. Advanced threats, some of these attack vectors are very complex to be given to the AI out there. It can have some impact for that. Diversity, the assessment can be done in different ways. that is going to affect adapting to dynamic environment, right? The reason is today IT, one of the main problems we face in offensive security is the environment is constantly changing, right? So a couple of years back they were on-prem, then they moved on to cloud, and they're on working on DevOps environment now, and keeps on changing, and they're constantly updating and things. So every time there's a change, we have to change the way we attack the environment or the target out there, right? And bringing the same thing to AI is going to be difficult. And one of the reasons why AI is good is also for the same reason, right? Once it's able to do the adapt quickly, it makes AI using for offensive security much more easier, right? And also automation between balancing between automation and manual testing. The problem with automation scans is they are not accurate. After each and every scan, the vulnerability analyst has to go through the output and actually remove a lot of scans because there will be false positive. Even though there is no vulnerability, they are programmed to report certain things as vulnerable also. Even if it is a 10% doubt, they think there's a vulnerability, they are going to report it, right? They feel it is better to be safe than being sorry. I- That is the option out there, right? So manual testing plays an important role. One of the reasons why we do a lot of web application manual pen testing, why we can't run scanning out there, is because web application is very difficult to scan, because you can tell certain attack vectors like XSS, SQL injection, command injection, and things and all. CSRF you can do detect, but when it comes to authorization or broken authentication or authorization attacks, it's quite difficult to scan, right? Using identifying using a scanner. So you will understand how much has to be done manually and how much has to be done automation. And AI also should be able to do that part, right? So how do you train that particular model out there? Again, tool development and customization, it's going to be, how do you adapt that particular process into that's going to be there. Communication and reporting, right? Whenever we find any vulnerabilities, one of the main things for any pen tester, the one job, one component that I really hate in pen testing as a job is reporting and communication. Right after the report, I have to communicate the finding in a put it in a proper report format. Right, for me, it's one of the most difficult ones. So if I'm spending about 3 days on a pen test, I may be spending 2 days on a report. Right, so sometimes I will give those tasks to someone in the team, but everyone is going through the same pain, so it's we find it difficult, but because we have to report it, right? We have to put it in a document given to the technical team. Once they go through it, they'll come back to us with a lot of questions and things like that, and that is where you add value to a job, right? How you can communicate, interact with the development and the target team that is there, and help them fix those vulnerabilities, right? That is important for you for that. And data analysis and threat intelligence, right? So how do you look at logs and identify new vulnerabilities, zero-day vulnerabilities, and how do you increase the intelligence of them? So that is one of the things. All these things is because all these things are looking at security from different perspectives. Bringing everything in AI is going to take some time, right? And that is what we are facing challenges in that. I do work with few product-based companies, security product-based companies. We are trying to add in AI. It's really not that easy compared to other places, right? So AI agents, right? The so what are the different components? So what are the things that could occur in an AI process? We'll look here. So these AI agents can use the power of LLM, large language model, to plan tasks, trigger tasks, make decision, interact meaningfully with the world, right? I think someone's
Please mute your mic. Mute your mic, please.
I think someone is, yeah. So basically, this is the agent that is working and doing the activity for you, and this has to make decision out there, right? One of the problems we face with AI in pen testing or cybersecurity is going to be related to ethics, right? From the I will talk about it in some time, right? So usually what happens is that we spoke about different phases, right? When you're doing the reconnaissance, we're getting some information about the domain, collecting that could be reconnaissance is basically looking at data that I can collect about an organization or a target online without interacting with the target out there, right? That's going to be in your LinkedIn, it could be in Google and a lot of other places, right? So let's say I want to attack an organization. I've been tasked to give a red team access, right? So black box testing. I want to know what kind of a servers they may be running, right? Are they looking at a Linux server? Are they looking at a Windows server? How do I know, right? Without me doing a active scan on those devices. So one way to do it is to go to LinkedIn, right? So earlier time it was much more difficult because a lot of people we had to look at job openings for that. So careers, go to their career page or in LinkedIn, look at job openings. They will tell we need a Linux administrator, or we need a Windows administrator, or we need a firewall engineer who can work on Palo Alto, and things like that. Gives out the information. Nowadays we can go take a pro license on LinkedIn and look at what are the people who are working in an organization. You can look at the certification, you can look at the profile. It gives us a lot of information, juicy information that's there. In certain times, it can help us in harvesting username and passwords as well, right? So the date of birth, the important dates are going to be there. If you're able to track their social media, we can get into the Instagram, we can know what is their date of birth, what is their home address sometimes, because they'll geotag it, right? Or take a photograph in front of their house, their loved ones, you know, date of birth, birthdays, important dates. And this will help us create a lot of passwords related to that part, right? So this is something what an AI is supposed to be doing out there from an offensive security perspective, right? Second thing is that it is going to do web server scanning, right? Web application scanning and API endpoint. It does a lot of that, and it is going to do vulnerability assessment, right? It's going to run a VA scan, and it will try to do exploitation as well. And once that is done, the reporting is going to be taken care of, right? So now this is the basic level, right? This is what I would do. But once I've done this, what I'm going to do in general is that I'm going to look at this report and I'm going to see what is that more I can do. And this is where the reasoning from an AI is going to happen out there. So now web server scanning, we can use Nikto to scan for potential vulnerabilities and configuration issues. And so previously Nmap scan revealed port 443 was open. So we have limit scan on that port. Yeah. So I can tell that, okay, there is an web application server running on this particular server on this port. Let me focus on that part, right? So then I'm going to run an additional scan or additional attack on that part, right? So I'll come up with a plan, and you could see here, there is a yes, I approve of using Nikto, right? So here is where the ethics comes into play, because there should be someone out there who's going to tell you cannot do the attack without my permission out there, right? It is similar to having, let's say, you're having an AI based fighter jet which carries nuclear arsenal that can be used, right? There should always be a manual override, a person has to authorize it before it could do that, right? The Terminator, the movie we saw, it is something similar to that. AI takes over and takes the decision to launch on the nucleus. So that is the thing that is very much important out here. That AI should not, it should come up with the reason, it should come up with a plan, a detailed plan, what exactly is supposed to happen, but it should never take that action. You should be taking into that part. And this is the reasoning where it comes, right? Are we going to use it in every single stage? Are we going to work only on the analysis when it comes to the execution part? Right. So now let's say there's an approval for using the NICTO and that attack goes on. And once that attack goes on, I'm getting some kind of an output out of it, and I'm going to analyze that part. Right. Now this process can go on a loop. Now based on what I've got, I can restructure my scan. I can make my scan better, because when we're doing VA/VT right now, in a VA part, it is predominantly we're trying to cast a wide net, trying to capture a lot of things. Still, there are a lot of things that are going to be missed, right? That is why we do PTA as well. So avoiding this, try to can I make things changes out there, right? And one more main advantage of using AI at this level is that it gives you the ability for it to learn, right? Let's say it is able to compromise a particular machine out here and doing a certain activity out there. It is going to learn that and it is going to apply the same knowledge in the next attack phase. That is very difficult for a human being, right? On a normal scenario, when I train people who for pen testing, it might take 6 months, and for them to get very good at their job, it might take about somewhere between 18 months to 2 years to get good. So for them anyone working in the right direction takes about 3 to 4 months in a bare minimum out there, right? But AI is not going to happen out there. It's going to do learn much faster, and it's going to come with a wide variety of it, right? And at the same time, it is able to absorb a lot more information from online sources. For instance, there are about 46,000 vulnerabilities approximately for across all the domains, right? It may be for Windows, Linux, other software and things. A 46 known CV vulnerabilities that are there. For a human, it's going to be very difficult to go through all those vulnerabilities to analyze and understand how to do an attack. For an AI, it's going to be quite easy. And the more it gets trained, the more it is going to make it better and better, right? Uh, from a pen testing analyst perspective, it is easy because I can run a very small team, a very accurate attack vector. I can identify a lot of vulnerabilities, but it's also very scary, right? Uh, it's all about who can get this task able to do it first, right? Someone, your enemy nation, are able to do an AI. It's very very dangerous as well. So there's a lot of ethics that comes into play, and lot of it's not always black and white. There's a lot of gray areas when it comes to AI and cybersecurity. But it's an interesting space, right? So it is going to make things much more easier. It is going to help teams, especially internal teams, to help them protect their data network, right? So it's excellent. Let's see how the future holds, for the AI. But it is going to happen. It is going to happen. It is just a matter of time. It would be ideal to start using AI, day to day to be relevant. It's going to be very difficult for us to go without AI, and not doing AI is going to have a lot of large impact. Right? So this is what we are speaking about. What are the things, how it's going to help, right? Raw output traffic analysis, anomaly detection, vulnerability pattern recognition, script generation, it can do all those things, right? Risk impact evaluation, vulnerability triage, false positive reduction, root cause analysis. It will be able to identify much more accurately, right? A lot of false positive is not going to be there. Uh, Doing exploit research is what a lot of freshers are, or a lot of, even for me, exploit research is very difficult, right? Uh, how do I do? How do I modify my attack to suit a particular vector, things and all. So how do you generate payloads? That is, yes. So basically, this is about if think about is AI is able to create computer viruses, right? So even without AI, every day thousands of viruses are there. It's quite difficult to track all of them, and AI is going to be there. Anyone will be able to generate. All they have to put some keywords, and it will generate, right? It will also help you with social engineering simulation things. Right. So as what we have spoke, like help with reporting, visualizing, and this is where we are seeing right now. The AI in cybersecurity is more focused on report generation, summarizing and visualization, getting as a graph about that, and simplifying technical findings, and also for recommendations, right? So how do you fix something, right? A lot of times we do take out, uh, for me, I'm doing it for report generation. I know what has to be put. Putting it in a documentation is very difficult to in a particular way. AI helps out, but it also helps out with the remediation as well, right? There will be certain situation. Let's say the server is vulnerable to a particular attack vector. Finding the recommendation for that particular scenario, it will be very unique for them because based on manual testing, we have identified that part. Finding the exact thing is going to be very difficult, for us, and at least pointing in the right direction, going where do I get information for this? Because it will be hidden somewhere in some documentation, Microsoft documentation or Mozilla documentation or Linux documentation. It was very difficult previously to go find this. Now it will help you out. It will help you out with that. So once you get the recommendation from AI, then we'll actually try to look from the legitimate source, and then it matches, right? So it makes searching certain things much more easier out there, right? So that's the point of that. But AI is, we see AI is going to be, it is going to be in all parts of IT, and it is going to have a significant impact in testing cybersecurity as well, right? Uh, Having a lookout for it, it will be much more keeping in your mind, trying to understand is there any new thing that can be done. It is going to do that part, right? But looking at AI without looking at what exactly is happening in cybersecurity will be very difficult because at that time you'll be firing in the dark. Understand what is happening in cybersecurity, then use AI to enable your part, right? For instance, I'm using it for report generation. I know what the report should contain. It's not that I'm not depending on AI to tell me what should I write in the report. I know what should be there, but I'm using AI for the sentence formation, putting it in a right order. And once that is come, I have to manually review it, what's happening out there. Is it doing the exact justice to what I want, right? Even though I might get recommendations sometimes which I'm not getting online, still I have to take it and find a legitimate source, something which is peer reviewed, whether I'm getting it from Nest or from the Linux documentation. Let's say it's an Ubuntu server. I have to look at an official Ubuntu documentation telling that this is what you're supposed to do, right? Let's say I could not find, I have to sit with the client, implement that task, that fix out there, and retest the entire application to check it is working as intended out there. I'm not blindly depending on that. AI is going to help you with your work. It is not going to take your work, right? It is going to enable you to do better, right? It is going to enable you to do better. The way you are going to use it is how it depends on what's going to happen. For instance, simple way you can tell is that you can use a iPad tablet, Android or an iOS tablet to help you to teach your kids in a better way, how to make their knowledge improvement when it is used in a correct way, right? If you're going to give them the tablet and going to let them do the same, right? Same thing is going to happen with AI. It's not going to be a good outcome, right? I think hope we'll stop here from theoretical perspective. So any questions, guys? Any questions from AI or any VA or VT part?
Thank you, Mr. Devashish. Sorry, Mr. Karthik.
Yes.
It was really good. session, and I think this is the first time we discuss about the AI in our cybersecurity session. So
Yeah,
it's quite
in this detail, I think we have done it once before, but nothing in much detail because I'm seeing in the industry, I've been interacting with the teams and yeah, yeah, hopefully.
quite meaning like very in depth understanding like why this AI going to replace our job or it is going to help. So and you put that thing very clearly. So guys, as Mr. Debashish mentioned, he is not doing well today because of his health. So today we are not going to have any DevOps session. So if you have any doubt, question, anything regarding cybersecurity, job market, job hunting process, uh, you can ask. We can guide you based on our knowledge and informations. So feel free to ask. We
Mr.
we
Karthik,
will
I
have
have a
some
question.
minutes now. Yeah, Selassie.
I have a question about the AI. You said you use the AI primarily for generation post your testing. Now, do you see any signs of the AI being used for actual testing as well?
I think it can be used. I think there are a lot of products that are coming in that is going to do that activity. I think probably in next 12 to 18 months or next 24 months, we are going to see that action out there, right? Already there are a lot of AI been implemented in larger tools like Nessus and Quali at an enterprise level, what we are seeing, but still there is a grassroots level, not too much engagement out there, not too much, because the problem here is that they have to be very careful with what they're implementing out there. They don't want AI to hack something which is they are not supposed to hack, right? Because the scope is very much important in pen testing, right? So reporting is going to be there. They're going to keep on in phishing attack. They were seeing out there certain changes and things where you have to give the email addresses and talk about the how you want to go, and it is going to do that activity. It is the simple like for a lot of people who don't know, scope is very much important. Let's say there is one network I want to hack, the organization has told, they will tell there may be 100 devices, they'll tell I don't want you to pen test this 100 devices. Out of this 100, I want you to stick to 24 devices alone, right? Anything more than that, you're breaching the contract. That is a attack. That is a cyber attack. The only thing which you have got authorization, that is what is pen testing. Even if it is a simple device, a simple IoT device, that is considered as an attack vector. So that can be prosecuted. So that is what they are trying to be a bit careful about. What is the intensity level of the attack? Because uh, whenever we are doing a load testing on some services, as a pen testing, we want to see, can I compromise a network by sending a large amount of data and see that whether it's working or not. That can be a problematic because AI might decide, okay, let's try to do DDoS attack and check, and it will do that part. So the controls part has to be, it will take some time, because when you're doing chat GPT or anything, it does not have to, it can spill out whatever it wants. And whenever there is a changes, I think we saw from Gemini and other things, there was some racial based or profiling kind of the they took it back and made the model change. But here it cannot do it because once a device is hacked, it's compromised, you can't take it back. So they have to be a bit careful on that part. So we will be looking at it at a very near future, but yeah, it's going to take some time.
Thank you. Any other
Thank you,
question?
sir.
Our quick note, our cybersecurity evening batch and DevOps morning batch is going to start very soon. I think end of this month. So keep if you are interested to join our job ready training, keep an eye on the group. The data was not finalized yet, but we'll let you know at least 10 days before, because at
Yes.
present still going and with full swing. And let's see. Now, US job market is little slow last couple of weeks because of this tax and tariff fight and battle. So every company they are right now, you know, taking precautionary steps, and they don't want to hire, and they just hold their horses for now. So job market is little slow. So that is kind of a good thing as well, because we expected the market will be good from Jan 20th, but unfortunately, with some external influence, this market was little slow. Not little, comparatively slow, but still the demand is high. And if you see the stock market earning analysis, most of the company, especially IT company, they are in a profit. So we are expecting a good number of hiring in upcoming days. So if you are in the job market, don't. It is just for a hold for timing, and eventually within 1 month or maybe less than that, we'll see a better flow of IT jobs recruitment.
Yes, and again, our DevOps and DevSecOps courses have been modified. We are bringing in cloud security, and we're also talking about from an Azure DevOps perspective as well, right? How do you run your pipeline? Predominantly, we'll look at different stages. From in the current batch, we're looking at both Jenkins and Azure DevOps. From how do you look from that part and look at cloud security from an Azure perspective, right? So we can simulate a similar situation for it will be similar for AWS or any other cloud platforms, but from a pattern perspective, it's going to cover a lot of things. It will set you in the right direction, the course, for what is required, right? And it again, it is not the course is not specific to one single uh, job type, right? You are looking at, especially nowadays in DevSecOps, people are not looking at just at someone who comes with the DevOps with a security background. They're looking at someone who's coming from a pen testing background. They want the DevOps team to be able to do vulnerability analysis, do pen testing on a quarterly basis on the application, on top of doing the DevSecOps cycle as well, right? So then again, decision making and again, network designing, if there is a requirement, all those things are required. So we'll cover a lot of things in the course. You can check out our course details, or any questions you can put up in the WhatsApp group. Yeah, so we'll be happy to help you out. And in some cases also, there are certain topics that required additional, if you have 1 or 2 hours is required by the students, we also work on that as well. It depends. It's not that we'll be able to do everything, but we'll be able to cover that as well. And it's a complete both. If you take both DevOps or DevSecOps, uh, it is a more practical approach. There will not be any concept which is not going to be having any kind of a lab. So every concept is taught, and there is going to be a corresponding lab for that. And again, that's the thing, right? From we are looking from a real-time perspective, and we have seen from students who are working in real time after doing the course how close it is to the real job which has been done. Yeah.
So the nutshell is, apart from that, our training, how this job ready training, came on our mind, because we do have a consulting firm and where we many consultant work in industry, and the C2C role in DevSecOps, DevOps, AI positions, right? Now, every now and then we can see their job role, their responsibilities, and the company is asking them to get familiarized with newer tools or newer technologies. Based on the market trend, every time we set up our job ready training course. So just given an example, as Mr. Karthik mentioned, and just adding a few more points. In our DevOps course, we used to have GitLab. for CI/CD pipeline. But from this batch, we have already replaced it with Azure DevOps. The reason behind, because more and more our consultants who are right now working in the industry, and our students who are rightly working in one of as a DevOps job role or DevSecOps position, whatever tools and technology they are right now using, and or their company are migrating from old tools or adapting newer tools. Based on that, we are also trying to modify our training so our next students or upcoming students they get benefited. We'll try to one of our student, she got placed in a very good position, so we'll try to ask her to join next week. Let's see if she can manage. You guys will have a better understanding uh, from her as well. And I will also ask one of Ernest is here. He was here, but is now not now. So yeah, getting so our job training is only make you ready for the job. So then you need to so finding a job, it is like you need to win a competition and your competitors are having bachelor degrees and master degrees in IT, because there are so many students, they are not at all a software or IT engineers and who join with us and eventually they landed successfully on IT industry in good positions. Some of them landed in Google's and AWS as well as a C2C and full-time positions. So your competition will be high, but you only one thing you need very carefully and thoroughly, that you have to attend all those classes, and after that you need to take your marketing very seriously. Marketing means job hunting process, and you also need to rely on the job market. It is not like it will work like a charms or magic. Once that thing done, somebody will knock your door and hire you for the job. It will going to never happen. So you need to keep applying, and if you require any help, assistance, we are here to guide you. Even after whoever students are doing only the internship program, if you have any doubt, question regarding job hunting or job program, let us know. We'll definitely try to help you. Okay. Guys, any more question or we are good for today?
I think few questions are here. What are the roles in cybersecurity for entry level with CompTIA? For DevOps, do we need to work or study DevOps first? And also for cloud security, any recommendations? Yes, if you are someone, it depends on what is that you're already working. Trying to do DevSecOps before doing DevOps may not be a good idea, because we are going to build on top of whatever is there on DevOps, right? We are going to add value to that, add security to that part. And similarly with cloud security, having some understanding of cloud is important before going with cloud security, right? CompTIA Security Plus is going to help you out with all the entry level jobs. From a pen testing role, then that's what you have to do, that basic things that is going to be there. In a DevSecOps course, we cover all three of them, right? So is there
Because
any different? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to add one more thing. Because all of our courses, especially job related courses, we normally don't target a single job positions, as Mr. Karthik mentioned earlier as well. We try to, cover up at least 3 to 4 positions, which is mostly relevant and who they have like a dependencies. Like in instance for DevSecOps, our training, we normally target for pen tester, cloud security engineer, and DevSecOps engineer, right? So it the benefits of this one, it will give our students a much more uh, availability, or they can apply much bigger, they can target a bigger job market. Because if you only prepare yourself for a particular tool basis or particular tech basis, it will narrow down your job search. So it will eventually you will land that you will get the job after maybe 8 9 months. You have had to wait, right? But if you have a bigger spectrum or bigger job portion to apply, it will take maybe 3 to 4 months.
Yeah. And not only that, we have seen people who are applying for DevSecOps. In most of the students who are applying for DevSecOps roles, they do interact more at the later stages of the interview when the final or one the interviews are usually taken by CISOs, Chief Information Security Officers, or Chief Technical Officers. When they see candidates coming up with multiple cybersecurity uh, topics under their belt, they give it more preference for that as well, right? Because a lot of these organizations are medium or small, they are trying to implement cybersecurity into their organization. It helps people coming from different background, someone who has multi-domain in cybersecurity, different fields like application infrastructure, DevOps, DevSecOps, and cloud. So it has much more better chances of you getting selected compared to others. Okay, right? And most of these people who are also on a day-to-day report, they're not usually reporting to some IT manager. They're usually reporting to the chief technical guys out there or the teams that is going to be there. So this is again at the moment an high visibility role as well. So you'll be much more visible to the senior management as well. So the next question is there a difference between normal application software lifecycle development and AI application development? I did not get this. It means, are you talking about, are you using AI to develop applications or how to create an AI application, right? Uh, Creating an AI applications, I'm not much aware of it. I've not gone through it. I'm looking at projects where we are taking AI as in one of the components and how to make the product better, right? That is what we're looking at. Uh, that is one thing we look at that part. So in that case, software development lifecycle does not change, okay, but it is going to speed up the process. Instead of we taking about 10 days to develop one application or a code for a functionality, probably we can bring it down to 3 days or 4 days, and even reduce the number of developers needed on that project, right? We recently saw one cloud application, Cloud AI. We gave it a very brief, about a page worth of explanation what has to be done. It created 4 pages of code, meaning 4 different, that is doing analytics on the data. Then we took that code, made some modification to our fit our requirements, and used it, right? And if we had gone with a normal person for that, it would have easily taken 10 days, and we were able to finish it in 10 hours time, right? So it is going to speed up and it's going to reduce the number of people, but it is people who get it done. It is super able to enable you to do a lot of things. So yeah, so that's what I think. Any other question, guys? I think probably we will not be able to do the scanner thing today. We'll do it next week for sure, right? So I'll start up with the scanner and probably add one more security practical component to that as well. I will update in the WhatsApp group for that. Or you want us to continue, Mana, for 45 minutes, 1 hour?
I think we are good today, right?
Yeah, so we can do it next week for practical part for that. Sure. Yeah, we can wind up. I didn't get you when good today meaning you want.
No, I think today we are done. Next we can
Yeah,
continue
yeah,
for
yeah. We can. Yeah, next week we can have a complete practical session. So I will plan accordingly. I'll update in the WhatsApp group ahead of time so that you guys can focus on that thing.
and some of our upcoming days we will see some of our hands-on session with Mr. Karthik. So it will be very much interesting. And those people are very new. It will help them a lot to understand what you need to do day-to-day point of view on your as a cybersecurity engineers, right?
Yes. Yes. True. Thanks, Abhishek.
Okay, guys, thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
See you. Yeah. Sorry for today. We don't have any DevOps session as Mr. Devash is not feeling well. So sorry for this inconvenience. And hopefully next week we'll have both of the session, and see you next week.
Thank you.